MS Hans Hedtoft was a Danish liner that struck an iceberg and sank on 30 January 1959 on her maiden voyage off the coast of Western Greenland. The only piece of wreckage ever found was a lifebelt. As of 2016, she remains the last known ship sunk by an iceberg with casualties. Description: Hans Hedtoft was 82.65 meters long, with a beam of 14.17 meters and a depth of 6.43 meters. She was assessed at 2,875 GRT, 1,368 NRT. Hans Hedtoft was built by Frederikshavn's Werft at Frederikshavn in northern Denmark. She was yard number 226, launched on 13 August 1958 and completed on 17 December. She had a double bottom and 7 watertight compartments and an armored bow and stern. She was designed to provide a year-round service between Denmark and Greenland. Like the RMS Titanic, Hans Hedtoft had a riveted hull, a feature which was criticized by Knud Lauritsen, a shipowner. Lauritsen claimed that a riveted hull was not as resistant to ice pressure as a welded hull. Hans Hedtoft had the code letters and radio call sign OXKA. The ship was named for a former Prime Minister of Denmark. Sinking: Hans Hedtoft sailed from Copenhagen on her maiden voyage on 7 January 1959. Her voyage to Julianhaab, Greenland, was made in record time. Hans Hedtoft called at Nuuk, Sisimiut and Maniitsoq before returning to Julianhaab. On 29 January, she began her return journey. The ship had 40 crew, 55 passengers and a cargo of frozen fish on board. One of her passengers was the Danish Parliament member Orgo Ling. The next day, Hans Hedtoft collided with an iceberg about 35 miles south of Cape Farewell, the southernmost point of Greenland. A distress call was given at 13:56 stating that the ship had hit an iceberg at 59.500 degrees north, 43.00 degrees west, 59.500 minus 43.000. The call was answered by the US CGC Campbell, the West German trawler Johannes Kruse of Bremerhaven and another West German trawler. Within an hour, another message was sent stating that the engine room was flooded. At 15:12, it was announced that the ship was sinking. A final message was sent at 17:41 stating the ship was slowly sinking and requesting immediate assistance. Aircraft in Newfoundland were grounded by the weather and unable to assist in the search for Hans Hedtoft. The beginning of an SOS was received by Johannes Kruse at 17:41, after which communication with Hans Hedtoft was lost. On 31 January, US CGC Campbell reported that conditions were the worst seen and there was no sign of Hans Hedtoft, her passengers and crew. The search was called off on 7 February. The only piece of wreckage ever recovered was a lifebelt which washed ashore some 9 months after the ship sank. The ship sank with parish registers from parishes of Greenland, which were meant to be deposited in archives in Denmark, causing a major loss for Greenlandic genealogy. As a result of the sinking, the airfield at Narsarsuaq, Greenland, which had closed in November 1958, was reopened. An appeal fund for the relatives of the victims was opened. Kr 40,000 was raised amongst 10 countries in 2 months. Compensation for the relatives amounted to Kr 1,184,936. Like the RMS Titanic, Hans Hedtoft was said to be the safest ship afloat, being described as unsinkable by some. possible use as a warship. Hans Hedtoft was armed with three 40mm anti-aircraft guns, on the orders of the Danish Ministry of Defense. The armament was not part of the original plans, and the ship was strengthened in three places to take the guns. An ammunition room was built into the bow of the ship. The MOD provided the anti-aircraft guns free of charge. Although fitted during tests, the guns were dismounted and carried aboard Hans Hedtoft at the time of her sinking. An order had been issued that the guns were to be removed from the ship immediately after she arrived back in Copenhagen. It was claimed that the arming of Hans Hedtoft resulted in a warship being constructed without the approval of the Folketing Memorial. On the 30th of January 2005, Queen Margrethe unveiled a monument at North Atlantic Wharf, Copenhagen, to the 95 people lost on Hans Hedtoft.